What's good, YouTube? Today, the one and only Jill Shafer is going to take us through a writing lesson. Are you ready? Let's go.
Oh, no.
All right, you guys. So this is part 2 of my series called PD That Doesn't Suck. My goal here is to provide you with some professional development that really, like, you wish your district would provide for you, but they sadly are missing the mark right now. So, Mr. N, here to the rescue. I'm bringing in the one and only Jill Shafer. Hello, Fifth. Yeah! Thank you so much for inviting me into the model home.
Oh, gosh. Of course. All IKEA. It's built by IKEA.
So Jill, like, you know, she's really big on her IG stories, and she was showing stuff, and I'm like, do you live in a model home? And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for saying that. But really, guys, I'm in here. It's a model home.
Oh,
this could be a model home.
Thank you. Very sweet. Don't go in any of the kids' bedrooms.
Yeah, open the closet.
Nope.
No, really, oh my gosh, it's amazing in here, you
you.
guys. Okay, so let's just jump right in here.
Okay.
And like, tell me about your writing. This is your passion, right? Writing
Yes.
is your passion. I can tell
Okay.
by all the things you do.
Yes. So, as a student, I struggled in school with writing and reading, and I just have a heart for the kids that struggle. And
Do you think it was you? You think it was the style of the teacher?
I think it was a lot of things. I know I had a ton of support at home from parents.
Yeah.
But I was super shy, and I just never felt like my voice
You were a
was
beauty
heard.
queen. What are you talking about?
I didn't really come out of any shell until high school. I was super quiet, and I dreaded writing because I felt like putting my voice down on paper was just not what they were looking for. Because I
Wow.
was so quiet in class.
Okay.
And so I've always looked for ways to engage those quiet kids and then encourage the kids that have a ton to say and are willing to talk and share to kind of push them.
Yeah.
And so incorporating writing throughout our day has just been kind of one of the pillars of what we do in our classroom. And even now in this hybrid model where we have a condensed time period, it's still
Yeah.
really important that we...
So you're
that happen.
teaching hybrid. Part
Teaching
on time,
hybrid,
part
yes.
online, part
Right,
in
and it's
person.
I guess it's a deceiving word what we do because we have a cohort in the morning, then those kids go home and do asynchronous work, either pen and paper or digital, and then we flip. So I'm not doing Zooms or
Right.
or Google Meets or anything like that, but I do only have them for half the day.
Oh, okay.
So we really have to maximize our time, and so what I've done was look at best practices over the years and throughout my career, picked what is going to get me the most bang for our buck,
Yeah.
and then incorporated that into our
So you've been able to use stuff that you've done in the past. In
totally
this.
and use it in a different way. So
Great.
for an
This is so
example-
perfect for you guys.
So
really.
we love our language wall. You can't teach writing without teaching grammar, and language wall is a huge piece of it. And we manipulate and kind of the sentence diagramming of the past that I did in high school, and we manipulate words and we learn about word structure and how words play together, and we do that through mentor texts. And it's a 5-day learning model. I don't have them 5 days because on Wednesdays they stay at home. And so we've just modified it.
Yeah.
And we make it work. And our mini lessons are still, 12
Yeah.
to 15 minutes, and we make it work. But yeah, looking at what we've always done and then finding ways to make it happen this school year.
Can you walk me through the process? So you moved from 5th grade to 4th grade.
I did.
Has that changed the process at all?
Well, it's been really eye-opening, and I think every teacher, I don't know, maybe this is controversial. I think every teacher should teach the grade prior and the grade beyond.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
Because it has shown a light for me on where they're coming from,
Yeah.
what knowledge they have, and then where I can continue to
Okay,
build.
so give me an assumption you had about 4th grade teachers when you were teaching 5th grade.
Gosh.
Because for me, when I was teaching 5th grade, I'm like, gosh darn it, 4th grade, why didn't you teach math facts?
Multiplication, math facts, That would be my first one. And then parts of speech. I always thought, where are the parts of speech? How do they not know nouns? And so, yeah, definitely. I think those would be the two big things.
For sure, for sure.
So, yeah, fourth graders. I'm loving my fourth graders so much.
We were just talking, you guys, and she was saying how much like she loves fourth grade. Fourth grade is a special age.
I do. They are so eager and excited without that slight edge of attitude hitting it.
Yeah.
I do love my fifth graders though, obviously. I'm hello fifth.
It's weird because I teach middle school now and I love that about them. Like, I love that.
You love the edge.
I do. I love the edge. And another thing is their problems are so real.
Yes.
Like they're dealing with
true.
Some real things.
Yes.
And I that's just really, it really touches my heart. It really.
No, I see that. And like I said, I do miss the fifth grade curriculum.
Yeah,
I love fifth grade. And I love the conversations you can have. However, I'm also seeing like fourth grade is such a great time to push in for, how do we do accountable talk when we're talking about a novel? Like instead of just saying, I think, we're using sentence stems to build.
Yeah.
I agree with, Darin,
right.
but I also think, and so they're sponges to that.
Yeah.
They're so open to it and they're like, give me more.
Okay, I know we're going to talk about writing, but could you walk me through your day? Like what does a Monday look for you?
To. Okay, so Mondays are, I feel like, our heaviest day. We always start with morning meeting. That's been a non-negotiable even in our hybrid.
And how does that work for you?
Well, we had to modify it this year. I'm used to them just coming in, stuff down, and coming to the rug, and we're not allowed to do that. So
no carpet time anymore, guys.
I have maintained a carpet space should things change, though.
That was like my favorite time. I used to bring my fifth graders down.
Yes,
and I remember my first year, my principal came in. He's like, oh, fifth graders on the carpet. I'm like, look at them. They love it.
They love it.
Yeah.
So they come in, they sit down. I always have something on their desk for them to do, and I try to make sure it's non-academic, like something that increases fine motor skills, something that just gets them hooked and invited into the day.
Yeah.
They start working. I give them just a couple minutes because I'm taking temperatures and doing health checks.
Oh, okay. You have to take temperatures.
And then we do our morning meeting, which includes.
How do you do that? You have one of those little thingies?
A little scanner, yeah. They can choose their forehead or their wrist to be scanned.
Okay.
And then we do our morning meeting card, which is just a very low stakes way to get them talking and sharing. And throughout all of that, I'm building in those same, talking stems of how do we bounce conversation off of each other. And that's like really, they've just hit the ground with that running.
Okay.
And then we go over announcements. We always go over our agenda. We can't do class jobs this year, so another modification we've done is we pick one lucky duck of the day, and that's just a student who gets to lead us in our class promise. We wrote a promise of what we vow to do every day.
Yeah.
That person gets to come up, stand on a special stool. So we've just tried to find ways where they can still feel empowered in the morning meeting, even though they're all behind shields, wearing masks.
Right. Who cleans those?
Well, between cohorts, I clean the first set, and then at the end of the day, the custodial staff cleans the second.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got it down to a science.
I'm sure, yeah.
And then on Mondays, we always do our read aloud that ties from our mentor sentence. So if our language wall, I'm looking to really lean in. Last week I was looking to lean in on prepositional phrases. I picked a book that had a ton of prepositional phrases and then I pulled a sentence. Mm-hmm. So we read the book on Monday and then we jump right into language. So our first real content area is language. We do our mentor sentence. They write it down. They're noticing as much as they can independently in preparation.
So where do you have this projected or written on your whiteboard, or what do you do?
Typically it's just written on our whiteboard, but since I have two groups, I just write it on big tag board. And Group A has a poster and Group B has a poster. Okay. Just another, modification we made for the year.
But it's great information for them.
Okay, good. I've had to really think differently than I've ever had to because, like I said, there are things that are just non-negotiable for me. And so making it work.
How much more of a workload is it now that you're teaching this way?
In the beginning, it felt double. It really did feel double the work. Now that we're in a groove, I feel like it's totally manageable. But again, I'm not seeing kids online. So I'm
Right.
I'm
Did we
essentially
tell them
doing the
that?
same.
Or did you tell me that? I don't think we told them. I think
I'm
that was
not-
just us talking.
I'm not teaching anyone online. I'm full face-to-face.
Yeah. Tell us about the models in your district, because...
Right. So we, as a parent, I'm a parent in the district I teach in. And so I've gotten to kind of see this both ways. And my district, I feel like they've done an amazing job of a really hard situation in giving parents and teachers choice. So our model options were to go full virtual in a brand new online academy that they created. It has its own principal.
Yeah,
Teachers
just like us.
could opt in.
Yeah,
Yes.
the same thing.
Parents could opt in, and they extended the deadline as things were changing in our county. And then the other option was a full return. And if you chose full return, you knew it was going to start in a cohort model with the hope of eventually moving full face-to-face. Now that has been continually pushed back.
Okay.
Back. So I did not want the virtual option for myself or my children for many reasons. And then I chose a full return for myself and for my 3 kids.
Okay.
So we're in a kind of like early bird, late bird
Right,
model
right.
of the olden days.
Do they come... Oh, so they come morning and then afternoon? Or...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we have them for 2 hours and 40 minutes. Teachers then have a 50-minute lunch break. And then we have the second group come.
Okay.
And then
And that's every day,
Wednesdays-
Monday through Friday.
Well, no,
Well,
on
no, on
Wednesdays we only see one cohort.
And that flip-flops.
And it
I
flip-flops.
see.
And then the group not on campus is learning asynchronously all day.
Gotcha.
And that's when our
So who plans for that?
well, the Makerspace teacher provides a lesson on her Google site, which is amazing because you just go to your grade level and she has the video and all the materials and everything.
Yeah.
That's a lesson.
That's such a
It
blessing,
is
Jill.
huge. And
I
our
mean,
music teacher does the same.
Yeah.
And
Like,
then-
could you imagine if you had to plan both?
No. And then our music teacher, and then that's the day we have like a PE lesson. We do, for me, I have them do their race writing, their text response. So just things like that. And then we do Reading Plus and ST Math. And so they stay busy,
Yeah.
but they're learning.
Everybody
totally
wants to know when you sleep. Right, guys? Because we see your stories and it's like starts at 5 in the morning. I'm like, hello, when does this woman sleep?
I know. Okay. Well, I've always been the type to get to school super early.
You get there at 5 in the morning?
I get there like 5:45.
Oh, okay. 5.
Totally reasonable.
What time do you wake up then?
My first alarm goes off at 4:45.
Wow, and you're able to make it?
Yeah. Oh, it's all clothes are laid out, hair's washed the
Oh,
night
okay, I
before,
got you.
lunches are packed.
Still, wow.
But then
so
I
impressive.
am in the car. I'm usually home by 3 p.m. every day.
Okay, that's great.
Because my husband will do the mornings.
Yeah.
With all the kids and drop-offs and everything, and then I do all the afternoons.
Okay.
So it's just...
You got to do that. Like,
yeah,
I know
the
what that's
school's
like.
quiet in the morning,
Yeah.
and I can get so much
I know.
done.
I love that too.
So, and I do
You
all
don't
my
have to-
team planning
You never have to
Wednesday.
wait at the copy machine at 5:45.
No, I've never waited. I'm only waiting because I have to warm it up because I'm
Yeah,
the first person to use it.
That's the worst, huh? You push it and it's not on. You have to wait for that thing.
Yep. That and
Or
the
somebody
laminator.
has it jammed and they just took off.
Yes. Oh, I'm very good at unjamming because there's no one there to help me. I could work for Xerox by this point.
Oh man. Okay. Wow. This is really interesting to see all the different options that teachers
Yes.
are going through right now, because I know every district in our country is so weird, so different.
So different. So, and I really, looking at all the models, I am very grateful for what we do.
Yeah.
I love that I see my kids, aside from Wednesday, I love that I see them every day.
Yeah.
There's consistency in
Right,
that.
right.
We've
That's
built
great for
a
them,
class
too.
community.
Yeah.
I've worked really hard to try and build a community between Group A and Group B because, I mean, it's my dream that we would all be together.
Right.
So they have.
How do you do that?
They have a pen pal. So
Oh,
Group
okay.
A
You're doing it to
will write to
your
Group
different
B.
cohorts.
Group B will write to Group A.
Because you were talking about a different school in your district.
Yeah, we've always done a different
Yeah.
school, and then we meet up at the park, and I knew that couldn't happen this year, and I
Right.
didn't want to set the precedent
Yeah.
that it might happen. So I got the idea of let's just write to each other.
That's great.
And they got each other's school picture, and they have it
Yeah.
because some of them know each other and some of them
Right.
don't.
That's so awesome.
They sent each other little holiday, messages like cards, and
Yeah.
we have their work up all around the room that they
That's
go
so
check
great.
out. So I've tried.
So I'd like you to walk us through your writing system from the point of view of somebody that maybe wants to just start this on Monday.
Okay.
Keep in mind it's 4th grade, but will it work for 5th grade?
It would work for 5th and it would work for 6th. And then you really could modify even for 3rd and for 7th.
Okay. Here we go, you guys. You ready?
Okay, so everything I do is rooted back in what are the standards? Where do I want my kids to go?
Yeah.
And so for writing, there's 3 main
What a great
genres.
place to start.
Right?
You guys, I don't know why would you
look
not?
What's expected.
Yeah.
I always start with that. Now, my district has some frameworks that they give an idea, but you don't need that. I just look and see.
Yeah.
There's expository, narrative, persuasive
right.
opinion. Okay, so what I do is I
Do you start with one?
I always start with personal narrative because it's
Yeah.
a great way for kids to kind of open up to you. You learn about them.
Yeah. So where are you at now then?
So we just finished our first expository.
Okay.
But personal narrative is definitely always where I start. And it provides so many rich mini lesson ideas too. So when I'm just starting, if I was just sitting down to get started, I map it out what I want to do. And so if I'm doing narrative, I'm going to look at my standards and I'm going to see all the things that are included. For example, dialogue, inner thoughts and feelings, show not tell, descriptive language. And from there, I go to picture books. And I always want to...
Okay, let's pick one.
Let's pick
one picture book, one...
Okay.
What are you going to do next week?
Okay, so Enemy Pie. Enemy Pie is a great picture book, and it's almost always where we start with personal narrative because it hooks the kids.
Okay.
They're super into it.
I'm going to link it right down here for you guys.
Everybody's had an enemy. Everybody's had a friend that doesn't
Some of
feel
us
like...
more than others.
Some of us not. It always just really gets kids excited. And we talk about how that's a small moment. That's a moment in time where the 2 boys are playing in the clubhouse where everything changes. And we're going to zoom in on that and apply it to our own lives.
Okay.
And so maybe our mentor sentence from that week will be from Enemy Pie. And it's really, teaching is an art and it's a craft. And you're looking in to find pieces of books that not only relate to kids, but then they can apply to their own writing.
Yeah.
So that's why I love, just picture books are high interest.
This is it, you guys. This is next level teaching right here. Master teaching.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Thank you.
Keep going, please.
Well, and another thing is it's not the same year to year. And that's why when teachers will ask me, like, what's the next day? It's really responsive with what your kids need. And so definitely this year I've seen it with what a 5th grader might be able to pick up and then produce on his or her own. A 4th grader might need an extra day or 2.
So how do you evaluate that? How do you assess that?
So constant conferencing. And even in the hybrid model, even when time is so valuable and precious and short, I'm still popping into those writers. And whereas in the past, I would pull them down to the rug. I can't do that.
Yeah.
But I can certainly, I sit on my gray little rolling tractor stool and I just push myself up and down the aisles and I knead in.
You need a little hoverboard.
A hoverboard
You
would
could
be
go all around.
amazing. So I keep a binder of anecdotal notes. And if my lesson that day with Enemy Pie was about using dialogue, I'm going to roll myself right up and down those aisles and I'm going to say, show me what you're doing.
I love this, you guys, because Jill writes everything.
I write everything.
Yeah.
I know.
But you could type it too.
You totally could. I write everything.
She does.
I show up to IEPs with pages
Yeah,
of handwritten notes.
And
I'm old school.
Edited by Darin is not judging at all.
Thank you.
I feel like writing is the lost art. It's becoming the lost art.
It
for
is.
Sure. And those kids need that
Yes.
fine motor skill of writing. Like we have 4th graders that show up that cannot use scissors. And it drives me crazy.
Don't get me
3rd
started.
grade teachers.
Yes,
Teach
there's
your
an
kids how to
assumption.
use
That's why
They
we.
should be able
That's
to
why
cut
we
a
try to
straight
do
line.
morning work. That
Yeah.
because they don't use those muscles as much.
Okay, we're so excited about this. We gotta really we're gonna come back.
Okay, so I'm assessing constantly through conferencing.
Yes.
To me, it is the best way to get your finger on the pulse of where they are as a writer.
Okay.
Because especially with narrative, things can kind of derail real fast.
For sure.
And you want to make sure that
becomes a stream of consciousness for those kids.
It does. No matter how many structures and scaffolds and graphic organizers, kids want to just write.
Yeah.
And so teaching them to hone in and to really like focus in on what you have taught and what the end goal is so important.
Okay, let me rewind.
Okay.
So you started with a picture book.
Started with the picture book.
And you read it out loud.
Read it out loud. I pulled one sentence as our mentor sentence.
And how did you choose that sentence?
Well, that's
from the standard, right?
That's going to depend on the standard.
Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So you're wanting to look for picture books that have all that rich, either maybe figurative language that you're looking for or transition words. I mean, even just teaching the art of indenting and starting a new paragraph.
A capital letter at the beginning of a sentence?
Yes. It's
another third grade.
Oh, we're so sorry, third grade teachers.
I love you, third grade. You know I love you. Okay.
So that's where I'm planning it all out.
Okay.
And
what do you do with this sentence?
we put it up on the board. The students have their own. They have ELA spirals where they're writing it,
Okay.
and we're noticing
So you have it up there. They're rewriting it in their spiral.
And I have them just notice. What do you notice about this sentence? And they'll notice everything from that's a capital letter to you use a comma and then quotation marks.
Yeah.
Just anything you notice.
Then how are you noting this stuff down? Are you writing it on?
So they get to, this time where we can't share materials, they come up with their own marker and they get to come up and they'll share it out verbally and then they'll come up and they'll get to label. Like just this week, our sentence said strong wind. Oh. And so they came up and one student came up and said, that's an adjective and it's describing the wind. So that must be a noun.
I wish you had some examples. Can you send me some pictures?
I can totally send you pictures.
And then I'll put them on.
Totally. Yes, absolutely.
We'll show them on here.
They blow me away every week. Because the things, when you give kids the power, and instead of me saying, that's the wind, and instead of just saying wind, how can we make it better?
Yeah.
They're coming up with it.
Yes.
And so then,
always way more meaningful.
So they connect to it. And then, of course, I'm a little competitive. So I'll say, gosh, you guys noticed, I don't know, 17 things this week. Could you notice 18 next week? And they'll notice like 28 because they want to beat it. So that's kind of, where we start. And I form my mini lessons around those things.
Okay. So there you go, you guys. So we're letting the stuff that we're learning inform our instruction, right?
Yes.
Guide us where we're going after that.
Totally. And there's things that they won't notice.
Yeah.
Like adverbs are super hard I found for kids. So they're not going to notice an adverb, but that's where I plan a mini lesson around how can we use adverbs to make our writing stronger. So what they don't notice is just as telling as what they do notice, because I can, decide where are we going.
And I could already tell that you approach this with no ego. So if it's going a different way than you had planned, you're flexible enough to go that way. So teachers, that is a great suggestion for you. If you want to go this route, but your kids are pulling you this way, it's okay for you to go that way.
It's okay. And in the beginning, when I started teaching, 200 years ago, I would write it all out. Like day one was going to be this, day two. And I was so rigid and it wasn't beneficial to the kids.
Do you remember the moment where that changed for you?
Do I remember
Or was it just a kind of gradual
I think
thing?
it was a gradual. I love listening and learning to other teachers.
Me too.
And I think we can be so much stronger if we all go into this. Like you said, no ego. Just, I want to learn what you're doing and watching other teachers and me thinking, why am I putting myself in this box of it has to be this way and we have to be published by this day.
Right.
And so just over the years, releasing a little bit of that control and giving it to the kids has been transformative.
Yeah.
Because the final product is better.
If you're doing an art project, do they all need to look the same?
Oh, well, art is different. Is it open house art or is it just regular art? If it's open house art, we really like to be nice and neat.
Okay, I gotcha.
No, we do try. I really do try. Okay, well now you found my Achilles heel, so way to go.
Okay.
That's it.
All we're coming back. We read aloud the picture book. We pulled a sentence. They copied it down. They have noticed things about it, and then where do we go from there?
Okay, so then we go off to write. Now, within my unit, so for narrative, I do structure it for them, especially in 4th grade. For example, if I know that I'm, wanting them to kind of get used to a 5-paragraph, and it doesn't have to be paragraphs, but 5 more sections, I will staple a packet of 5 pages. And so I'll say, writers, you're likely going to go back and start working on, page 2 of this.
I love how you call them writers.
I do, and for every subject, mathematicians, Sometimes I'll throw in their linguists, and that really, they feel very sophisticated. So they'll go back and they'll start writing, and I always want them to try what we've just learned together. So if we've learned dialogue, I want you to go try some dialogue, because that's when I'm going to start, pushing through with my stool. But also then they can just go and they can continue wherever they left off. And so another big thing over the years is they're all going to be at different places.
For sure.
And that's really hard for a, type A personality like me.
Well, like for teachers, wouldn't it be great if they were all...
if I could all go and be like, yes.
Yeah, it sounds impossible for sure.
So again, you have to let that go as writers.
Yeah.
And I will just pop through. I always ask them what they're working on that day and what they are hoping to get to next. And so and then within that I embed like a compliment and something to grow on, so they know when I switch away, they're going to have something that they think Mrs. Shafer wants them to do. And then I just go to the next one. Now, in previous times before all of this, a writing conference would be 5 to 10 minutes, and it's probably under 2 minutes.
Right.
And it just is what it is, but I do think it's valuable because there's also the accountability piece that they know. I'm going to need to talk about my writing, and I need to, show evidence of what we're learning. And so they stay on top of it.
Okay, so what are they writing?
Okay, so if it's a narrative unit, we go through and our first mini lessons are even what is a small moment? What does it mean to zoom in? Instead of talking about my family vacation to Hawaii, that is so overwhelming to a child. What about just that one time you surfed that one time you found a really cool shell? And so we start our unit.
That's so Lucy Calkins of you.
It is. It's very. I've been around so long. I've got everything. I've got right from the beginning. I've got step up to writing. Sometimes I'm like, "Where's your green dot?" I'm like, "Oh, we're not doing that right." And do you remember Nancy Fetzer? I mean, I've got it all.
Are we the only ones laughing at this? I know you guys know.
Thinking Maps Company. Yeah, there's so much. But you know what? I think that's also. Just my opinion, why teachers get overwhelmed by writing, because there is not a TM.
Yeah.
And there's so many different schools of thought with how you can best approach writing. And for me, I am very grateful that I have all of this to pull from. But like I said, it is a craft, and you have to try things out and see what works for you, what works for kids, and what works one year for kids may not work the next year for kids.
For sure.
So, but yeah, it's very Lucy when I say today and every day, writers, we are going to use, punctuation. So yeah, I'm pulling from all different. And that's where a team helps too.
Yeah.
Like talking with my colleagues and saying.
How has your PLC been working this year?
Well, it's amazing this year because on Wednesdays we only see that one cohort. And so then we have the entire rest of the day to sit and plan. And honestly, writing is one of the things we talk about the most because it is, I feel like it could be something that could be pushed aside because when you only have them, you're like reading and math, but you can't be a good reader without being a good writer. And so we plan so much of our Wednesdays just about where are we going with writing? What's next? How are we going to approach it? How much time are we, like, what are the parameters of, like, what could we do? What could we let go if we had to? Sometimes we do. This year, we also sit with the 5th grade team.
That's good.
Yeah, which is really interesting. And we haven't always done something like that, but like this year when we were all doing personal narratives, they were doing personal memoirs. And so fifth grade was. So just kind of knowing
That's
like,
awesome.
hey, next year, you know, you're going to kind of step into this and preparing.
What about
for
third
that.
grade? You ever meet with them?
We need to meet with them.
Come on, third grade.
We will.
Boy, this third grade.
I'm sure third grade is
we've been
totally
bashing
pumped to
third
meet
grade.
with me. They're going to stand me up for sure now. We are used to larger teams, but this year everything is just different. So
that makes it
just
a
us.
lot more streamlined. You
It
don't have
is.
to convince as many minds this way.
No, and I'm very grateful. I've been fortunate to work with people that are really all in.
Yeah.
And so, well, that hasn't been a problem in a while.
Okay, so they write.
Okay.
You come around.
I'm with my handwritten notes in my binder.
Binder in hand.
Even more school, it's a binder.
Do you write with a pen or a pencil?
When I'm taking conferencing notes, I always write with a pen. When I'm planning, I always write with a pencil.
Oh.
Planning might change,
Look
conferencing
at
notes
this, you
won't.
guys. Okay.
And I only use Inkjoy gel. I really am a structured person. Yep.
Okay, this is great.
Yeah, so I'm conferencing. Those
You
notes,
and my wife would get along so good.
those notes come.
What is your husband like?
He is the opposite of me.
Oh my gosh, same.
Yes.
Same. So I
Yes.
am completely opposite as my wife.
Yes, he will come in my classroom just to visit. And, you know, he'll like move a stapler, and I'm like, ooh, that's not the way the stapler goes.
Tell me if this conversation resonates with you. Yesterday I was talking with my wife, and I'm like, okay, so if we won the lottery, like what would you buy? And she's going through all these things. I'm like, come on, like, can you just live outside the box for a moment?
No, I would pay off the mortgage. I have a list of things I'd love to get done. I'd like to redo our bathroom.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's who we are.
That's great.
So they're writing. Those notes come in handy, and I really encourage all teachers, whether digitally or by pen, because when you are sitting down to do an IEP, or if you're in the first steps of, a referral, or even just parent conferences, have those notes, because it shows the progression. And this year, they're super short. It might just say,
I was going to say, what do these notes look like?
It might say, gosh, I'm trying to think of one I recently did. He was finishing up his fourth paragraph. He needs to go back. He's looking for punctuation. I just leaned in with a couple kids and taught him a spelling strategy. So I'll write that we've covered that, so I know to check back in on that to see, is he trying it or she trying it? And it's just really brief, and it
sounds like
quick.
This is the key to this whole thing, is you're checking in with these kids, these little meetups.
And I do it with reading, and I do it with math. And it's exhausting, and that's why at the end of the day, it's like, whew. But that's why I'm gonna brag. I'm proud that I know every book every kid in my class is reading.
And where they're at.
Because if you've got that kid reading I Survived for a whole 2 weeks, that kid is not reading I Survived. Like, something's going on. And so I made it a mission as soon as I moved to upper grade to meet with every kid every day.
When my kids were growing up, they'd have to fill out these reading loans, right?
Yes,
And so they're like, hey, Dad, can you sign this? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, you've been on the same page for a week.
Yes, that's not the truth. No, I find conferences, and I think it's overwhelming, especially for new teachers, because the thought of meeting with everyone all the time, it's like, how do I have time? But for me, I have to look at it differently. This isn't a one-on-one, 30-minute dive into who you are as a reader. It's a check-in. It's like a
For sure.
quick, how are things going? What's happening? I myself have to be a reader, because I have to know what that book is about. Yeah. And so I have thousands of books in my class library, and I tell them I've read the majority of these books, so I know what's going on. And you got to be prepared. I'm going to hold you accountable. Yeah. And I do it the same with writing. You know I'm coming by. Right. You see me sit down, and you see my big white binder come out.
When you see the binder coming, guys.
The white binder is reading and writing. Mrs. Shafer's coming by. So just holding them into a place where they know that it's a safe space. There's always times where kids are like, oh, I I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't try that. Or just giving them an
Yeah.
opportunity to say, I need help.
We have this great teacher in my district. Her name's Paula Venable, and she used to always teach that writer's block is part of the writing process, and it's okay to
love
have
that.
writer's block.
I love that. That's so good. Because you do have those kids that sit down and you can tell.
Yeah,
And they're like,
it's okay. Like, yeah,
it happens. And I think that's when me coming around helps.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them to sit there and feel stuck in that rut.
this is kind of a great opportunity, you guys, with some of these smaller classes that we have now.
Yes.
To be able to get around
Yes.
everybody.
Teaching in Southern California, our classes are huge, and so
Yeah.
I'm used to having anywhere from 32 has been my smallest class ever to
Right.
36. And
If
so
you had a big class like that, how many would you get through?
right, so that's hard, and I'll be honest, it is really, really hard. Even though the day is longer, you have more
Yeah.
kids, and so my goal in a typical year is to meet with each writer 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. And I do the same for reading. So in a typical year, they come in after lunch, they get their read to self books, and that's my time to meet. I used to pull them up to me, and it's quick. It's just quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. And then
Okay.
your more vulnerable students you need to meet with.
For sure.
You need to make it a priority.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
What
my
do you
goal.
do with that information after now?
Okay, so after I've conferenced and I've seen where they're at, and I have to reflect on my own teaching, because if I just taught something and I'm looking at it and I'm like,
Yeah.
either they're not doing it
Yeah.
or they're doing it incorrectly, that's on me. Like
Yeah.
I need to cycle back, and so that's
See,
why
you guys
I use
no ego.
No, and that's why I use pencil in my plans,
Yeah.
or a digital plan book, because you might have to go back, and that is a big lesson, I think, as a writing teacher, that it's never going to be like a linear thing from A to B.
What do you think about teachers that have like 3 months planned
I
out?
don't know how they do it. I don't know how you guys do it if you do that. I found, and this year is unique, but it's very difficult even just to plan a week ahead.
Yeah.
Like this week with math, I totally thought we were going to get to balancing equations, but we're still working on like how to substitute in a variable. And so I had to completely change
Yeah.
next week. And and then people are probably like, well, how does she ever get anywhere? Because there are days where you're like, oh, they totally got that.
Yeah.
As well as XYZ, so I'm going to move on.
So what do you do? At what point do you move on?
I move on when I feel like the majority of the writers or readers are either attempting it or they're mastering it.
Okay.
And so if there's a handful of kids, and I would say this is true for any curricular area, if there's a handful that just aren't, that's where I need to either pull a small group or talk to them one-on-one, but I do move on.
Okay. So then what do you do with those kiddos that are
Still struggling?
Yeah, still struggling.
So those are my vulnerable students that I'm going to meet with a little bit more often. This year, it's incredibly hard to have any time. In a typical year, I love to eat lunch with the kids. And so if it's a real, like, let's have a conversation, I used to do a craft club on Wednesdays, and they could craft and we could just kind of turn the conversation about like, what are you having a hard time with? Because nobody wants to feel like they're struggling.
Yeah.
And especially kids, they'll open up to you.
Yeah.
And so
They're so honest.
they are. And so building that community, and that's why I think, relationships first.
Yeah.
They'll come in, they'll want to talk to you. It's never like punitive. I would never say, you can't go to music. You have to work on this. But it's really up to the teacher to find the time and the ways, what works. So like this year I have a student who is really, really struggling just with structure and organization. Incredibly so. And so I've created some kind of, if like a graphic organizer and a thinking map had a baby, something like that. And we have it on that student's desk. And then I talk to mom and dad. They have it on the student's desk at home too. And so bridging that this year for me is super valuable, because you do have them for a shorter amount of time. So what can we do even if you're at home?
How do you communicate with parents?
Well, I send a weekly email every Monday at 6:30 in the morning that I write Friday afternoon before I leave. I don't let myself leave school until my Monday email is written. This is making me sound very...
we already knew all this,
very
Jill.
robotic.
We already knew all of this.
So all throughout the week, I have a pink sticky note on my planner, and I jot down things I want to include in my weekly email. Friday afternoon hits, they leave, I type it. And so parents know every Monday morning you're gonna get, and I just bullet point it. It's nothing flashy. There's no like, student spotlight or anything like that. It's just these are things you need to know. I always tell them what we're covering that week, and then if there's any, big events or tests or anything. And then this year we are using Class Dojo, not as for points, but for communication and for photos. Because I have a lot of students that want to communicate with me when they're home.
Yeah.
And maybe they don't understand something. And fourth graders, I found email was a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But they can jump on their mom or dad's phone and send me
That's great.
a dojo message. In years past,
app.
my class always has their own private Instagram account. And that's usually a class job as the Instagram photographer. And we just can't do that this year because we can't do it.
Thanks, COVID.
It even got into our class jobs. So no, I get daily messages from kids who have gone home, and they'll send a picture of their work and they'll say, am I on the right track? And that's because they can use the Dojo app.
This is part 2, you guys. We're going to come back, and Jill is going to teach us how she uses Class Dojo.
It's really, I've never used it for points because I found it bulky. Like, oh, you don't have your materials ready. Let me find you. Let me find, that didn't work for me. But it really helps kids this year communicate. Yeah. Because we have Google Classroom, but that's for academic purposes. And so I don't want them going on and chatting because I'm teaching. And so Dojo's been a great way for them to go home and get that help.
Let me ask you this. So how do you differentiate for the other end of the spectrum, the guys that are like, whoa, ready to write a novel?
Yep. So those are those kids, you've got to find ways to engage them too, because otherwise they will feel, disinterested as well.
This is such an important thing, you guys, because we always, when we think of differentiation, we always think of the other end, the lower end, right? The guys that are struggling.
Yep.
But the guys that are on the other end, they are in need also. They don't want more work. Don't just give them more work.
No.
Yeah.
It's so true. And so often I see it.
That is the answer for a lot of teachers out there.
So one thing we do is we have, and even in these times, I've tried really hard to still make it happen. They have writing partners. And so those are matched based on ability. And so if you have those kids that are really overachieving and high performing.
Homogeneous, heterogeneous?
Yes, homogeneous.
Oh, okay.
And they will, if they are able and they have time, they've done what they need to do, they'll meet with their writing partner, and those kids will push each other. But you have to teach that. You can't just say, here, go push each other. Yeah. And so we have, sentence stems again. Like we have little mini notebooks that they can flip to. How can we go back and make sentences stronger? Revising is huge. How can you go back and imitate what we saw in a picture book?
You have this a resource in your TPT store?
I do. Yeah.
What's it called?
Mini resource reference books.
Okay. I'm going to link that below too, you guys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. They're really handy, and the kids know to just bring them. So they will meet with their partners. They know things they can work on. I also always give kids, in our class, we have a must-do and a may-do board. And so on that may-do board, there's activities they may do, but a part of that is what else can you do as a reader, as a mathematician, and as a writer. So what can you go back in and maybe look at? And maybe it's adding details to a illustration, because you have to know the kids. Like, how do they learn best?
Right.
You might have a high achieving student that learns very visually. Well, let them go back and add details.
Right.
So just knowing your kids and then giving them those different options that isn't piling on workloads. I would never say, here's another packet, do a second story. Although I have a student this year who she did 2 narratives because she was like, I've seen this this small moment through. Can I do a second? And I said, totally. Like giving them the choice. In our room, we have different, I guess they're like paper file systems, and they get paper choice, and they'll just go over and they'll grab, and having that as a choice is very empowering for students.
Okay. How do we wrap this up here?
Okay, so you have to really kind of think, how long do I want my writing unit to be? This year, our first narrative, I wanted it to be 6 weeks. It was 8. And that's okay. We're rolling with it. That's all right. Because then our second one I had allotted way more time than I needed. So I got back a little time. Because they knew thesis statements. So 3rd grade teachers.
Yo, 3rd grade teachers.
I was all ready. I had written a song about thesis statements. And I started it, and they're like, oh, it has to have 3 parts. No, I will not sing it for you. But it's to the tune of In the Middle. Why don't you just put it in the thesis? So that, you can, it really is like a balancing act. I feel like teaching is so fluid that it's not, you can't just say on February 1st, we're going to start this, because it changes.
Yeah.
And so we're writing, we go through all of our mini lessons, and then my conferences change, and they kind of, and again, they're all at different spots. They move into more of revising and editing conferences. And so we teach that through mini lessons.
This is great.
But then you're also going to meet with them, because your, revisions that need to be made are going to be probably very different than the person who sits here and the person who sits here. So you can teach kids, all the arms and cups and all the different acronyms we give kids to look for, but then you actually have to meet with them, because
for sure
they've written it. They might not even know, that's...
Again, if you guys are getting nothing out of this except meeting with your kids, that is the key to this whole thing.
And I look forward to it, because how often do you, like, in your schedule say, I'm going to this time is not for like any checking emails or talking to anyone else. This is my one-on-one time.
Yeah.
And I know teachers can wear like fancy hats, like, if I've got this on, don't talk to me. My kids just know if I'm on that stool, like, really the room has to be on fire, because that time is so valuable to me. So we move into like more of revising and editing conferences. In years past, we also do that work with writing partners. I really haven't taught that this year, just because of time, and I know that what we can do just one-on-one with the teacher is going to be powerful. And then that can be about 1 to 2 weeks. Once I've kind of met with them, they know when they're ready to start publishing. And I always give kids, you'll like this, the choice to type. So they can go on Google Docs. Yep. They can go on Google Docs and they can type, or they can handwrite.
Okay.
I also give kids the choice of writing or cursive, because 3rd grade teachers.
3rd grade.
They do teach cursive in my district still. So they love being given the choice.
Yeah. What is the percentage of typers versus writers?
It is a pendulum that swings.
Okay.
Because I feel like this year, these kids have come off of virtual learning.
Yeah.
And it has either ignited a love, or it's like, I cannot do any more online. And so this year, I'm trying to think, on our personal narratives, I have 27 kids this year. 3 typed it.
What? 3, huh?
3 typed it. That was it. I'm making sure it's not our response to lit essays. They're also really excited. You can come to my classroom. They're still hanging on the wall. They're the second one, though. They love being given the choice of which paper to pick. And so if you say, do you want to type it, or do you want to go, handwrite it? You can pick whatever paper you want. Because I have options with, spaces for pictures, a full size or half size page, or a little picture. They love that. So they publish, and that in itself can take way more time than you think, or less time than you think. This year, if we're really it's like taking a while, I will send it home for asynchronous, and they'll finish publishing.
Okay.
And then we always have some sort of celebration.
I love this.
Yeah. In regular times, you can make it as big as you want. We've had times where we've made it. I love classroom transformations.
Yeah. Yes.
I love it.
I've seen the kelp.
Oh, right now we're doing Island of the Blue Dolphins, and everyone's under the sea, and I've got everything falling on me every single day, but that's all right. I'm pretty sure I had like asbestos on my face yesterday as I was putting things back up.
So Jill's like making kelp in the middle of the night, right?
Yes.
And I'm texting her going, don't forget the pitch. Because Karana is in her little canoe and
Yes,
it's like
yes.
taking on water because the pitch is...
Now I need a canoe. So I love transformations. We've done things where I make it look like a cafe. I have, a wireless microphone, giving kids the opportunity to share. Not all kids will want to share.
What's your rationale for this?
Because you have just gone through such like an experience. And when you do that, first of all, I always ask, do you feel proud? And yes, I'm very proud. Well, when we feel proud, we want to share with others what we do. So I give kids the chance to either share whole class or just with their writing partner, their finished result. And you have the same kids that want to share. They're the ones that are like, hand me the microphone.
Do you ever invite the parents?
We've invited parents. This year I was going to have parents do like a Zoom, and it just, for a million reasons, did not happen, but I'm not counting it out for the whole year.
Yeah.
But yes, we always celebrate. Sometimes we take it outside, just in a different environment where they just get to share. We've done gallery walks where they get to go around, I like to put little sticky notes on their writing so kids can leave each other a compliment. Just, something simple.
You got to build this into your time, guys.
Yep. Yeah, it's really
So
important. Because here you've dedicated weeks to this. Don't just staple it and either send it home or put it on the wall. Celebrate it.
Celebrate it.
Celebrate it. Celebrate learning, because then
those kids are proud of
they
the work
are,
that they
and then
put
they
in.
see like, okay, now we're doing this, and they're excited because they know you're gonna help them, and then at the end you're gonna feel such pride in what you've accomplished. So,
How do you get everybody to that point where they can publish? Sometimes that's the challenge, right?
That's the challenge, because again, you've got kids at all different parts, and so I make modifications. I mean, if my goal was for them to have, obviously every story needs to have a beginning, middle, and end, but maybe in that middle I wanted them to have, X, Y, and Z, like for narrative, a problem not solved yet, a problem not solved yet, problem they solved. Maybe you need to take out one or two of those and just modify it. And it's nothing huge, it's nothing major.
I'm so proud of how flexible you are in some things.
See, I'm either this or this. There is no in between.
How do you balance that?
I've had to really take myself out of it, because this is about them. And so as much as, I have to have my pink sticky note every week, and I have to use ink joy gel, there are other things that it doesn't matter. Like, let it go. And so look at the learner, look at the student, and you can tell if they're, either it's a time issue or just an ability issue. Make modifications.
Yeah.
Make modifications.
Where can a teacher go if they really want to start doing this in their classroom? Is there a resource, or like you said, you have a TPT thing, right? What is in that?
Well, that is just a resource that includes almost like mini anchor charts for kids. And I do have other resources that kind of walk you through, like I have a mystery narrative that walks you through. I really think your best resources, though, to take myself completely out of it, is the teacher next door. And maybe it's the teacher across the hall. And I through Instagram, have met people where they're like, well, I don't have a team.
Yeah, right.
Reach out to somebody, even on social media.
Yeah.
I get DMs a lot a day.
Sure.
A lot. And
When I first sent you one, I'm like, I don't even think she's going to get this.
Okay, but you know what? I check, because that connection, like, I learn from you, I can grow from you. If you don't have somebody in your building, go bigger.
Yeah. Because
we are all such a community, hopefully, of learners. We're teachers, but learners.
I have found that is a common thing for teachers. We're just thirsty for knowledge and learning from each other. That's why we're on Instagram and
totally
YouTube,
for those connections. And I travel every summer with other teachers, and even it's those little conversations you have where you have a takeaway and you have an aha of like, oh, well, she does that. I want to try that. So reach out to the people around you, and there's so much to learn from a teacher on any end of the teaching spectrum. The brand new teacher is going to know something that you don't know. Don't ever discount that. And then the teacher that's been teaching for 30 years is a wealth of knowledge. Yep. So you gotta open up. You gotta talk. You've got to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to adjust what you're doing. I think this year has been that's been the biggest theme for me, is that, I love doing Greek and Latin roots. I love doing all these things that I don't have time. So talking with my colleagues, what can I do instead?
Yeah.
Well, when we're reading a nonfiction passage, that root bio keeps coming up. Make that a teachable moment.
Yeah.
And instead of doing my traditional 20 minutes of Greek and Latin roots a day, integrate it. And that's why it's
So you had to give up some things with this pandemic time teaching, and you've had to adapt a lot of things. So that's another thing for you guys to really grab onto, that we have to let some stuff go.
You do.
And you have to decide what's important for you
Yes.
and your kids, and be flexible.
It's so true. And I just keep telling myself, it won't be like this forever. It will, we will slowly get back to what we know and what we have known. I mean, I miss flexible seating. I miss giving kids an opportunity to, go take your clipboard and sit on the counter.
Yeah.
Like, go lay on your belly under the desk.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like this forever, but for right now, we have to do what's best for kids, and we have to pick the most powerful learning pieces that we can give them, and know that eventually one day,
you guys.
One day
it's not
we
gonna
will.
last forever.
It's not. I think I say it every night before I go to sleep. It's not going to be like this forever.
Yeah.
And with that said, I still think there's beauty in this year, because what we have done is we've stripped down to what we know is the most important for kids. And so looking at that.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, it is.
Are you guys state testing this year? We are, huh? I moved up to middle school. I don't really have to deal with that.
I don't really want to talk about that.
I know.
Because
we could talk about that.
I don't think that's what's best for kids.
For sure.
I don't. I think that a lot of kids internalize a ton of stress with that.
Why was it okay to not do it last year?
I know.
This year.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of money tied to that too. So,
And I refuse, though, still to change what I'm doing to make it more like test prep.
Yeah. So you guys, it's hard. Like when you're teaching fourth grade, you feel like you've got to get to point B before they get tested, right?
Yes.
So much pressure for us to get through curriculum before testing. But I love that you're...
Yep, we're doing what is right for kids right now. And what's right for kids is having authentic discussions about text. I mean, we're living by Karana right now. Like, we are on the island with her, and we are embedding all the standards in that, and we're writing about it and having these rich discussions, but we're not taking,
Do you read by the Great Horn Spoon also?
I haven't in a long time.
Oh, come on. That's the best one.
Okay, we've done the Tiger Rising, great for figurative language and character development.
Yeah.
Oh, everyone cries at the end. This one, and then Esperanza Rising is next.
Oh, okay.
Love Esperanza
Yeah,
Rising.
that's a good segue from...
I love upper grade novels, and the discussions that you can have with
Okay, let
them.
me ask you this. So this series is PD That Doesn't Suck,
Yes.
right? I hope that you guys got some great...
Oh, I hope so.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Right?
I get
Comment
nervous.
below, you guys.
Oh gosh, only nice things.
I delete the bad one.
Okay. I do that with DMs too. You know what? We don't have time for that. So.
What? I know. We don't have time for that, you guys.
No. Let's build each other up.
Exactly.
Yep.
What would you like to learn? Because I'll go find somebody that isn't a master at it, and then we'll sit down and talk.
What would I like to learn? Well, there's so much. I think, this year, getting kids engaged with multi-step math problems.
Okay.
It's hard.
I have somebody in mind already.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because I haven't done any math. I did Gen, and then you did NIU, so definitely
multi-step math problems. That's like the one area. I mean, I feel like I could dress up like a clown and be flipping around, and they'd still be like, no. Nah. Not subscribing to this one. Oh. Yeah. That's a tricky engagement area for me.
Math is like my jam. I love math.
I
miss teaching math so
and
much.
I love the 4th grade math curriculum too. I really do. 5th grade math is hard because
It is.
the gap, it increases each year. If you're struggling by 5th grade,
know.
it's really
Right.
deep.
And if those 3rd grade teachers don't teach them their math facts, oh my gosh.
Oh, no.
They struggle from there on, you guys.
Oh, we do a lot
gap
of
is
math
a-
facts this
I know,
year.
you got to start out with that. Huh?
There's a lot of great resources for math facts. We dance every day. We dance our math facts out.
I've made Jill blush 3 times in this interview. You know I love you, 3rd grade
Oh my
teachers.
gosh.
I love you, 3rd grade.
I taught 3rd grade a long time ago. Now I'm like, did I do enough math facts?
If you taught one thing in 3rd grade, that is the only thing you need to teach.
Multiplication math facts.
You need it for everything. It's like so
You
important.
do. I mean, even now, when the unit ended, now we're doing like order of operations. And
I
like,
know.
oh no, it's back. Yeah, for the rest of your life.
Thank you so much
thank you
for
for
spending
having
this time with me.
Absolutely.
I'm so impressed with everything that
thank
you
you.
do. And so appreciative of you sharing your knowledge with everybody out
Thank
there.
you.
Like that is such a gift to teachers everywhere.
I love what I do. I
could tell.
I love it.
You can tell.
I love it.
Can you
It's
tell?
I've always looked at teaching as it's not my job. I never say I'm going to work. I'm just going to my class.
How did you
And
become a teacher? Like you've always wanted to be a
just
teacher?
always wanted to. Some of my earliest childhood memories are making my little brother sit and I would just teach him everything. And then when I was 13, my parents
We should ask him how good of a teacher she was.
I don't think he. I was a little bossy back then. When I was
Raise your hand.
when I was 13, my parents had identical twin girls,
Oh.
and so my first day of college was their first day of kindergarten, and I taught them to read. And I remember what an empowering.
I know.
Like you just you helped them like unlock the world.
Yeah.
And so
That was it.
That was it. And so I stayed local. My first day of teaching, I was 21 years old.
Oh, career educator.
Yeah, the parents came in and thought I was the aide. They asked her, when will the teacher be coming? And I was like, oh, it's me. Note to self, like wear higher heels or something.
Have you always been in this district?
No, I taught in another district, a huge district, and for 6 years. And then I started having kids, and it was really hard because I was all in for teaching.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I had this human that
Yeah.
I was all in for too,
yeah.
and I couldn't figure out how to balance it. And I left teaching, and I left.
Oh, you left for a while.
I left
How
for
long?
6 years.
Ooh.
And in that time, I was still. I couldn't completely leave because I've always known it's what I'm here to do. Not to be like cheesy, but I was
No,
tutoring.
I hear you.
One-on-one tutoring, and an opportunity opened up in the district where my daughter had just started kindergarten, and the community I live in, and I took it. And my youngest was 7 months old. And so I went back, and I've never looked back.
great.
I mean, I still, when I have a badge that just has my school. When I clip it on, I still get emotional sometimes because I know I wouldn't be here without my past experiences, and I wouldn't change it.
I also want to thank you for doing this interview without your parka on. It is.
Although I think it's like 90 out and I'm in a sweater,
it's like
socks,
90
and
degrees.
jeans.
I don't know if you watch Jill's stories, but
I am
she
perpetually
comes
cold.
and it's 55 degrees.
Oh, my favorite is that I would love to have more space. I would love to have land. So I'm like, I'm going to move to Idaho. And my husband's like, you wouldn't last a day. So now I have to live in Southern California, but I'm cold even here. No, I
love
don't
it.
have it. The park is in the closet.
All right, you guys, let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions. Again, we're going to get Jill on here again someday.
Absolutely. I'd love it.
And then if there's any other teachers that you want to learn from, let me know, and I'll make sure it happens, okay? Next, be looking for some math.
Math.
Yeah.
We want those hard word problems.
All right. See you later, everybody. Thanks. Oh, my gosh. Thank you so
Was it
much.
okay?
That was amazing, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean,
Wait
I
till-
love talking to you.
I know how.
And about school. No one else in my life is like, let's
I
talk about school.